What's up, Sooner Nation, and welcome back to the WhackoPreview Podcast, where we go over all things OU football every Friday heading into the weekend and matchups ahead. I'm Steve Curtis, the voice behind Wacko Sooners, and today, as always, we've got tons to dive into. First and foremost, we're going to be looking at this week's CFP Rankings, where Oklahoma comes in, what the rest of the playoff picture looks like, what Oklahoma has to do to stay in the hunt, and of course, we're going to do a preview of OU's matchup against Mizzou at home tomorrow, and also my SEC Wacko picks of the week. We're going to break it all down right here on Wacko Sooners. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell button so you never miss an episode. We're available here on YouTube and over on Spotify as well. Plus, you can follow us on all of our socials, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter X, all at Wacko Sooners, for live news updates, game highlights, and of course, some memes to keep it lighthearted and fun like we like it here in Sooner Nation. Go hit those follows so you stay in the Wacko loop. I will apologize in advance. I'm fighting a bit of a cold this week, so I'm going to try to keep the sniffles to a minimum, but it might not be perfect, so my apologies up front. All right, so the playoff picture. So right now, Oklahoma comes in at number 8. The rest of that bracket right now is as follows. Ohio State at 1, Indiana at 2, A&M at 3, Georgia, Texas Tech, Ole Miss, Oregon, Oklahoma, as we said, Notre Dame, Alabama, Miami, and then that G5 spot in Tulane. So those first 4 spots, Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, and Georgia, I don't have too much beef with that. I personally think that Texas A&M should be at number 1. I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for that because Ohio State, throughout their whole schedule, except against Texas in week 1, has looked really good. Julian Sayin has looked really good. My thing with that is their schedule has been a cakewalk football schedule by comparison to A&M. Now, yes, A&M has faced off a lot of the lesser teams in the SEC. But again, it's the SEC, and I know that I'm going to sound like an SEC homer, which in a way I am, being in the SEC, or at least Oklahoma being in the SEC. But ultimately, let's break this down. All right, let's look at the schedule here. So, Ohio State's, Texas, a win. Grambling State, win. Ohio, win. Washington, win. Minnesota, win. Illinois, win. Wisconsin, win. Penn State, win. Purdue, win. UCLA, win. Rutgers, upcoming. And then Michigan at the Big House to close out the season in rivalry week. Just that whole schedule. Let's go through this again. Texas, Grambling State, Ohio, Washington, Minnesota, Illinois, Wisconsin, Penn State, Purdue, UCLA, Rutgers, and Michigan. I mean, yeah, Illinois currently, or then actually, I don't even think they're ranked now. But Illinois was ranked at the time. Ohio State has 2 ranked wins at the time of contest. So, I don't know what to say. And yeah, Illinois, let's double check that, make sure that they're ranked. I don't think that they are. Oh, they are so ranked. Okay. All right, I was wrong. I was a buffoon here. Actually, wait. Yes, Illinois is still ranked. I don't know why I took that long to figure that out. Versus Texas A&M. So they had UTSA to start. Okay, fine. Then they had Utah State. Fine. Defense gave up 24 and 22 points in those games respectively. Not great. But then they go on the road and they beat Notre Dame. They go to Auburn. Or no, Auburn comes to them and they win that in a defensive masterclass. They destroy Mississippi State. They take care of Florida. They handle Arkansas a little bit down to the wire. They go to LSU and absolutely massacre the Tigers. They go to Columbia and massacre the other Tigers. They're 3-0 against the Tigers this year. And then, of course, the South Carolina game from this last week. Holy cow. That was a crazy game to watch. I tuned in for the second half when I saw the lead that South Carolina had, and I'm like, no way. Gotta watch the rest of this. And they did pull it out. Thing is, like, granted, they've had a lot of close ones. But it's SEC schedules, both at home and on the road, obviously being in the SEC. But they've won every kind of game under the sun. They've won absolute offensive shootouts, like against Notre Dame and Arkansas. They've had massive comebacks like against South Carolina. They've had defensive master classes like they did against Auburn. They've won every kind of game that there is, which is why I'm so partial to Texas A&M being up front, because they've shown that when one side of the ball is lacking, the other side picks it up quite well. And they're undefeated. Ohio State has dominated most everyone they've played. But who have they played? Because that Texas win, 14-7, that's looking worse and worse. And it will look worse again in a week when A&M, in 2 weeks or a week and a half-ish next week, when Texas A&M beats Texas. Willing to bet you that's what's going to happen there. And then you come down to Ole Miss. I can't complain there. Oh, and I missed Texas Tech, skipped over that. Big 12. I think they're overrated. They've got a Big 12 schedule. Yeah, they're 9-1. But again, it's the Big 12. And I know saying that after, Oklahoma was in the Big 12 for years. But for the majority of OU's tenure in the Big 12 is fairly dominant, right? I mean, heck, OU went to, I think it was 4 national championships there in the 2000s under Bob Stoops when the Big 12 was dominant. The Big 12 now in the mid-2020s is not what the Big 12 was in the 2000s. I promise you that. But, Texas Tech, I'm not terribly impressed. They had, They had the 4-point loss to Arizona State. Who's number 25 now. I don't know what to make of that or what to say there. They're 9-1. They're 9-1 is all I have to say, and it's a Big 12 team. And I don't think that Big 12 trenches can match up against Big 10 and SEC trenches. I just don't think it's possible. Because we saw first game of the year, Auburn-Baylor, or not first game of the year. Actually, yeah, first game of the year. That was week 1. Auburn versus Baylor. Auburn, terrible offense. Jackson Arnold, terrible. Offensive line, disappointment. But they ran amok over Baylor in the trenches. That's where that all started. So, I don't think Texas Tech is I don't think they should be above spot 8. And we can go over my re-rankings of the CFP bracket here in a minute. Down to Ole Miss, no legitimate complaints. I know a lot of people have been spewing the last couple days, but if Lane Kiffin leaves, since Florida State missed out on the playoffs being 13-0, but they lost their starting quarterback, maybe Ole Miss should be left out. No. Because the coach is not playing on the field. The coaches make a lot of the calls, but I have to think that a lot of his offensive staff knows how he would call the offense, in assuming in the event that Lane Kiffin were to leave and Ole Miss is Kiffinless in the playoffs, I still think that they'd be just fine. I think they'd be down a bit, but the staff still knows the playbook. They know the scheme. I think that they'd actually be all right. Oregon, I actually have some beef here. No quality wins. I don't even think they have a singular ranked win. Let's take a look at this, shall we? Yeah, so they had Montana State, Oklahoma State, Northwestern, Oregon State, Penn State. Indiana was a loss. That's their one loss, so they're 9-1. Then Rutgers, Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota. They've played one ranked opponent this year and they lost. I think there are some teams behind them that should be ahead of them based on their resumes. And they had their win against Penn State was 1 score. Their win against Iowa was 1 score. Iowa's defense, as always, is solid, but the offense is Iowa's offense. And Penn State has been a huge disappointment this year at, what are they now? Gosh, I want to say it's 3-5. No, it's 3-6. Or maybe it's 4-6. They're 15th in the Big 10 out of, I believe it's 18, so that's not good at all. They'd be 5-6 now, I believe, right? No, they're 4-6. They're 4-6. Yeah. So Oregon's resume to me is not impressive. I'm pulling for USC to beat them this week up there in Eugene, and we will get into that here at the end of this playoff segment. Next, Oklahoma at 8. I honestly think they can be a spot or two higher, and I'm trying to take my OU fan status. Like here, I'll take the hat off, put it off to the side while I say this. All right. Oklahoma's 8-2. Yes, they lost to Texas, who's 17th right now, 23-6. Yes, I think that the committee would give some consideration for Mateer's injury going into that game, and then the loss to Ole Miss by 8 points. That's a big one-score loss, but Ole Miss is number 6. I think there's something to be said there as well. And also, Oklahoma is one of 2 teams in the country that has 4 ranked wins. And that's Michigan, Auburn, Tennessee, Alabama. Auburn's not ranked anymore. Yes, I know. But they were ranked at the time of competition. The only other team with 4 ranked wins is Alabama, and Oklahoma just beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa. That being said, Oklahoma is also 4-0 on the road in true road games, 3 of those being in the SEC, the 4th being in Philadelphia at Temple. And Red River, obviously not necessarily a home game, but it's not necessarily a real road game either because both Oklahoma and Texas are on the road for that one. But Oklahoma's 4-0 in road games, 3-0 road games in the SEC. That's kind of a big deal, especially given the environments they went into. They went to South Carolina, they went to Tennessee, they went to Alabama. Those are 3 insane environments. So that being said, I think there could be an argument for Oklahoma moving up. Now that I've had that little soapbox, I can put the hat back on. Fan status back on. All right, next we got Notre Dame. I've got so much beef here, it's not even funny. Notre Dame shouldn't even be on here at all. Yeah, they're 10-2. Their 2 losses are ranked, and they were both fairly close. But ultimately, like, who else do they play? Their schedule, let's go through this. It was Miami, loss. Texas A&M, loss. Then they played Purdue. Bottom tier. But here, where are they in the Big Ten, actually? Let's find this. Yeah, Purdue is 18th. They're at the back of the Big Ten. You've got Arkansas, who's at the back of the SEC. You've got Boise State. You've got North Carolina State. You've got USC, which was their 1 ranked win. I'll give you that one. But then Boston College at the bottom of the ACC. Then you had Navy, which, yeah, Navy beat Oklahoma in the Armed Forces Bowl last year. We don't talk about that. And Horvath is actually pretty solid. Then you also had Pitt, and you had Syracuse, and you had Stanford. There's nothing impressive to me about this schedule. Nothing about this resume is impressive. Notre Dame needs to join an actual conference and play a consistent conference schedule so that they get the same kind of consideration for the playoffs as everyone else. The independence needs to stop. It's absolutely ridiculous. And they have a better advantage over everyone else when it comes to injuries late in the season because they don't have to constantly play tough games. The SEC, when it comes to the postseason, is screwed with injuries because of how tough our conference schedules are, because we actually play tough opponents. Ohio State, because they've had a cupcake schedule when it comes to the Big Ten, they're also going to have cupcake or lack of injuries because of the cupcake level of their schedule. All right, Alabama at 10, no real complaints there. Miami, they've got head-to-head over Notre Dame. They're both 10-2. Or no, they're not both 10. Whoa. Notre Dame is not 10-2. Why did I say they're 10-2? Uh-oh. Whoops. I lied. Let's just take a second. I think they'd be 8-2. I don't know why I'm thinking about why did I screw that up. Oy. Okay, yeah, sorry. Notre Dame's 8-2. They're going to win out. Miami is 8-2. Let's take a look at the back of their schedule. They've got Virginia Tech and Pitt. Yeah, Miami should win out those as well. They'll both end up being 10-2 in my opinion, and Miami has the head-to-head over Notre Dame. Miami should be ahead of Notre Dame. No question. I get it. It was week 1. I get it. Week 1 losses can be excused a little bit. I don't think that, but again, for all the reasons I listed about Notre Dame just a moment ago, I think Miami should be ahead of Notre Dame. And then, of course, Tulane in at number 12 for that G5 spot. No complaints. Need to represent the G5 guys, right? So we've gone through kind of my beef there, and we'll wrap this up really quickly because we do have to do the Mizzou preview and then, of course, our Wacko picks of the week. The way that I'd restructure this, Texas A&M at number 1. Talked about why. Ohio State would be at 2 simply because they are undefeated, defending national champion. Even though this late in the season, that doesn't really matter to me. Again, that Texas win is looking less and less impressive to me as the season progresses. I don't have any, so that in a vacuum, forget Texas A&M, that Texas thing might be enough to make me think, maybe. But again, they still won. So if it weren't for Texas A&M, I'd still have Ohio State at number 1. Indiana, they're down to 3, simply just because of the Ohio State bias. I'll admit it. I will rank them above Ohio State when they give me a reason to rank them above Ohio State. Big Ten championship, anyone? Then number 4, Georgia. 5, Ole Miss. I've got Oklahoma at 6. Here, we'll take the bias off again. Again, resume speaks. 1-score loss to Ole Miss. I'm okay with that one. Again, the quarterback injury consideration versus Texas. And then the comeback at Tennessee and at Alabama in recent weeks. Yeah, I'm okay with putting Oklahoma at 6. Bias off. Bias on. Put Oklahoma at number 1. Anyways, that being said, then I've actually got Alabama back at 7. Simply because like I said, Texas Tech does not impress me at all. Oregon does not impress me at all. So that would move. So Alabama at 8-2 with a recent loss at home to objectively an Oklahoma team whose offense isn't that good. I have no shame in admitting that if Texas Tech was undefeated, if Oregon was undefeated, Alabama would be down at 9 instead of up at 7 where I have them. But Texas Tech does not impress me. Oregon does not impress me. Even if they were undefeated, they still wouldn't impress me. Well, Oregon might impress me a bit if they'd beaten Indiana. But again, just unimpressive resumes to me. Then 10, I have Miami. 10-2. Or odds are we'll finish 10-2. And they've got the head-to-head win over Notre Dame. And Notre Dame, I'm just going to spoil it right now. I don't have Notre Dame in here at all. Notre Dame's out for me. I have BYU at 11. They're 9-1 right now. I expect them to go on to the Big 12 championship rematch with Texas Tech. Particularly if BYU beats Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship, I see both of them getting in still. Because I think the Texas Tech hype train has gotten so out of control. I think the committee's going to have them in regardless. And then I still have Tulane in at number 12. But hop in the comments. Let me know your thoughts on that one or on my re-rankings and just thoughts about the playoffs in general. One thing I'd love to see, and like I mentioned earlier, like I hinted at this earlier, USC is going to Oregon tomorrow. And Lord knows I hate Lincoln Riley. Lord knows I loathe USC. But what I would give, I'm pulling for USC in that game because if USC sneaks into the playoff, and let's go with the committee's actual ranking here. Oklahoma's at 8, Oregon's at 7. Oregon loses to USC. I see a world in which USC wins out. And Oklahoma would move up to maybe 7. And USC could probably finish like 10. Or somewhere in that, Oklahoma at 8, USC at 9, or 7-10, 6-11, something like that. For Oklahoma to host Lincoln Riley and the USC Trojans in a playoff game would feed generations. I honestly think if there's a world in which USC can sneak into the playoffs and Oklahoma stays in it and wins out, I think the committee will make that happen. Just for the storyline and the hype. That would be crazy. That would be amazing. I'd love to see that. So that's going to wrap up our playoff discussion for this week. We will get into it more next Friday on the LSU preview. And speaking of previews, it's Mizzou time. We got the nerd Eli Drinkwitz coming to Norman. So the current spread is OU by 6.5. Bo Pribula, Mizzou's starting quarterback, has been out since they played Vanderbilt with his dislocated ankle. And let's actually pull up the rest of Missouri's schedule here so we can kind of talk through what they've been doing the last couple of weeks with their backup. One true freshman, Matt Zollers. He's took over for Pribula, did all right against Vandy, kept it close. But, yeah, Zollers just hasn't looked great. He's got 327 yards through the air since taking over for Pribula. He played earlier this season as well in garbage time. So we're just going to talk about his stats since he took over for Bo Pribula against Vanderbilt. Right at coming up on a month ago. So he played Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, and Mississippi State. So Zollers is 327 yards. He's 29 for 60. Completion of 48.3, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. Rushing's been terrible. He's 9 carries, minus 32 yards, average of minus 3.6 yards per carry, no touchdowns, and sacked 5 times in 3 games. That doesn't look good, Matt. Sorry, kid. I like the matchup of Matt Zollers versus this Oklahoma front 7. And honestly, the OU secondary, which has done a lot better, which we can talk about here in a minute, how they performed against Alabama, arguably one of the better wide receiver cores that they've faced all year. The thing that scares me here is, and everyone knows this guy. Everyone knows who I'm about to name drop here. One, Ahmad Hardy. Best running back in the nation by far. He's got 197 carries for 1,346 yards. Average of 6.8, 15 touchdowns. Last week alone versus Mississippi State at home, he had 25 carries for 300 yards, average of 12 and 3 touchdowns. Ahmad Hardy versus Oklahoma's front 7 is going to be the matchup of the decade. Or not even the decade. Well, probably not the decade. Matchup of the year. That's good because to me, matchup of the decade is Baker Mayfield and that 2017 Oklahoma offense versus Georgia in the Rose Bowl. Greatest game I've ever watched, despite the loss. Still breaks my heart, but I digress. Then, of course, to supplement one Mr. Hardy, you've got Jamal Roberts, 92 carries, 583 yards, averages 6.3, 4 touchdowns. These two running backs together, solid dual threat or not necessarily dual threat passing and running, but just double-edged sword. These guys are both really good. Missouri's rushing offense is ranked 6th in the nation. They're averaging 5.6 yards a carry, 241.7 yards per game. They've got 27 total rushing touchdowns on the year. These guys are scary. And matching up against Oklahoma's rushing defense, which is ranked 4th, allowing 2.5 yards per carry, 82.2 yards per game, and 6 rushing touchdowns on the year so far. It's going to be fun watching that matchup there. As for Missouri's wide receivers, they've got some dudes there. Kevin Coleman Jr., he's got 600 yards. Marquise Johnson, I think it's Marcus Johnson. He's got 340. Donovan Olugbodi, I don't know how to pronounce that one. I'm sorry. We'll call him Donovan O here just so I don't offend by mispronouncing it. He's got 218 yards, 2 touchdowns. Joshua Manning's been doing pretty good too. No relation to Arch Manning, as far as I'm aware. But he's got 261 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then also their tight end, Brett Norfleet, he's got 230 yards and 5 touchdowns as well. And between those 4 wide receivers I mentioned, Coleman, Johnson, Donovan O, and Manning, they've got about 1,419 yards and 11 touchdowns between them. I think that's right. Is that right? I think I'm lying. Crap. Okay, scratch the 11 total part. But they're pretty solid. Again, though, I don't trust Zollers in this instance to really run amok here. And then The Oklahoma rushing attack going into this game tomorrow, I'm a little bit nervous because, yes, Xavier Robinson got banged up against Alabama. We know this. He had a knee sprain. Torrey Blaylock's not at 100% right now, and he's not a bruiser like X is. And Taylor Tatum isn't playing. Javonte Barnes, I bet you, isn't playing. I think he's probably getting ready for his red shirt to transfer out and try to have one more year elsewhere to improve draft stock if he can get his hands on any. And I love Javonte Barnes, right? He's done so much for Oklahoma. He's been such a team player all 4 years that he's been here. Yeah. The Mizzou rushing defense, mind you, is 19th. They're allowing 3.4 yards a carry, 107.6 yards per game. They've allowed 11 rushing touchdowns on the year. So OU's rush offense ranking in at 97 against this 19th rushing defense. I'm not excited. I'm not putting tons of expectations or pressure on Oklahoma's running backs this week just because I don't think X is going to be 100%. I don't think that the rushing attack is going to be able to do a whole lot. And then we can talk about Mizzou's passing defense here in a little bit when we get to the passing attack for Oklahoma. Offensive line for Oklahoma, they played really well last week. I was very impressed. One holding, one illegal formation. Got to cut that stuff out, but really good overall. They all did really well, especially with three really young guys, and Michael Vasusi, Eddie Pierre-Louis, and Ryan Foje out there on the starting lineup. Jake Michael has been getting better. He let a few get by him on Saturday last week against Alabama, and then you've got Fabechi Wewu, who's just dependable, great there at right guard. And then we saw Derek Simmons in and out at right tackle a little bit. So we'll see him against Missouri as well, I think, depending on how much pressure they bring and how aggressive it is. Rotating on offensive line, as long as you don't see a massive drop-off in production, is great. Try to minimize injury as best you can. That being said, Missouri is ranked 13th in the country in sacks and 12th in tackles for loss. So that's going to be a fun matchup to watch. See how well the boys can hold up on that one. As for the passing attack, well, actually, let's start with quarterback, and then we'll get into more pass specific. So John Mateer, he's been improving every game since he came back from surgery. His knee got banged up against Auburn, and we haven't seen him run tons or run a lot since then. He had a great 80-yard rushing attack against Tennessee 3 weeks ago. Did okay against Alabama. He had that big 20-yard run for the touchdown there after the Jaden Hardy forced fumble on the punt. Love it. That was I thought that was great. The offensive line did a great job on their blocking assignments, getting those holes open, and then sending X out in motion to draw that linebacker out as well, just to clear it, so then John could just step up, at least get the first down, but then he just dragged three guys in with him, just spinning around like a ballerina, dancing his way in. John's gas and brakes on his feet are also fantastic. I remember it was there in the fourth quarter. It was a 2nd and 7, and John takes the ball, he runs out to the right, he has to stop, cut back into his left, dodge it again, and then he came back to the middle and dove. Only got, I think, 4 yards on the carry. But man can juke. Man's got some twinkle toes. As for his throwing, he's been getting better. I know that we're not doing tons of throws, but you saw in the Ole Miss game that one big vertical pass up to Satania down the sideline. Against Tennessee, you saw some bigger ones. That great one to Satania on the far sideline. A lot of these are going to be in reference to Isaiah Satania just being a dog, being out there and getting open, ready to catch it. But John had some pretty good throws against Alabama, two that really stand out to me. The 22-yarder to Jermichael Carter. Love that dude. And we'll talk about him here in a bit. But that 22-yarder to J-Mike where Carter caught it. He was wide open, went and got a few yards after the catch. John, he just layered it perfectly right over the head of the linebacker, right into J-Mike's hands, and he just took off with it. That was great. Love to see it. Want to see more of that kind of stuff. Had a clean pocket. He was able to step into it. He looked comfortable. And then, of course, that 21-yarder to Satania later there in the third quarter. It was 3rd and 13. Defensive tackle breaks through Jake Michaela's face. He goes off to Michaela's right, and he's not able to get his left hand up under his pads, and instead is kind of out behind him on his shoulder. And the DT just comes right in. He's getting ready to get it, John. And John, just great pocket presence. He just shifts to the right, gets reset, steps up, and just slings it right out. One speed, like a dang rocket. But he didn't panic. He looked comfortable back there. Even though it was collapsing in his face, he just stayed calm, shifted again, got ready, and just hiked it out to Satania. That was one of my favorite plays that I've seen John make this year. The jump pass against Temple was fun. The bomb to Deion Burks against Michigan was fun. The rushing touchdown against Auburn. He's had a good play or two in every big game. But that might be one of my favorites right there, just with that poise in the pocket there. But those two passes right there, the 22-yard to J. Mike, the 21 to Satania, and then that 20-yard rushing touchdown, those three explosive plays right there, those are the plays that you brought John Mateer in for. And I think the healthier he gets, the better he's going to get. And I think next year, I bet he's coming back next year. But get him some better weapons there on the offense and get him more comfortable in the system. Arbuckle gets more comfortable calling plays in the SEC as well. I think you're going to see some big steps from John Mateer in 2026. Just need to start this game against Mizzou off, get him into a good rhythm, right? Most importantly, and I remember hearing Tom Brady say this years ago, but early, you get your best players hot early. What do you do first play of the game? Pass it to Gronk, okay? First play of the game, pass it to Satania. Next play, pass it to Kanik. Next play, pass it to Jermichael Carter. After that, hand it off to Xavier Robinson or some kind of mesh of that. I love Jermichael Carter. All right, he's 6'2". Last couple weeks, he's been really dependable. His route running on that RPO against Tennessee that ended up in the pick, that was a little questionable, but he's still a big dude, and he's been doing pretty dang good. He's delivered in big moments, and that's more than Giovanni Gibson. Now, Giovanni Gibson's played more. He's got more catches, but he's not exploded like everyone expected based on what we heard in spring ball. Now, of course, he's still coming off of that leg injury, so some grace is given there. Isaiah Satania, I mean, he's dependable. He's fast. Do what you got to do. Get that man the ball as much as you can. I want to see him have I need him to have a 100-yard game against Mizzou, and I need to see him get a 100-yard game against LSU. Because he's sitting here at, I think, 718? Yeah, he's at 718 yards. I want him to cross the 1,000-yard mark so bad this year. I'd love to see another 1,000-yard receiver at Oklahoma. Would love to see it. Jaren Kanik. I need that dude to fly off the walls. I need to see Jaren get a touchdown. Please, please, give it to the burger back. Heck, honestly, with how depleted the running back room may look, because God forbid X is out and Torrey is out or limited to the point where you have to start playing Jaden Ott. God forbid that. I would rather you play Jaren Kanik at fullback and actually have him run it than see Jaden Ott touch the field. Because, I mean, heck, Jaren ran it all the time when he was in high school. Give it to him. Man's physical. He's fast. I'd actually love to see that. Give me some of that, Arbuckle, please. As for the defense, R. Mason Thomas and Gentry Williams were both listed as questionable on the availability report Wednesday night. As far as I'm aware, that hasn't changed. So that could be good. I don't think that you need R. Mason a lot in terms of, well, I mean, we saw against Alabama. We love R. Mason. We love the closer. You'd love to have had him out there. Probably would have even been a bit of a bigger win if you had him. Healthy, mind you. But I don't think this is going to be a game where you need your best pass rusher to go after the quarterback all the time. Because I think Mizzou is going to try to grind it out on the ground with Ahmad Hardy. And R. Mason, he's gotten much better as a run stopper this year. But that's not his forte. His forte is getting after the quarterback, getting around the edge, and just walloping the guy that's slinging it. So I don't think this is a game where you need him. The last game of the season that you really needed him was Alabama last week. But you didn't have him, and you did just fine in the pass rushing department. Jeez, my apologies, guys. But yeah, passing attack with Zollers isn't going to be a terrifying threat, I don't think. The secondary has shown solid improvement, so if for some reason they do start slinging it more, and they don't ride with Ahmad Hardy and Jamal Roberts the whole way, I have confidence that the secondary is going to do just fine. They've shown great improvement the last couple weeks. Yes, they gave up almost 400 yards through the air against Tennessee. Yes, they gave up 326 yards against Alabama through the air. But let's actually break down those quarters against Alabama. Okay. So, of Ty Simpson's 326 total passing yards, 241 of them came in the first half. So, he had, 39 in the first quarter, 202 in the second quarter. That was abysmal. But then you have, okay, I've done my math wrong here somewhere. I don't know exactly how. Ty Simpson had 326 passing yards against Oklahoma. I do know I have this right. He had 50 passing yards in the third quarter, 30 in the fourth quarter. He had a total of 8 passing yards in the second half of the game. So second half adjustments were great. Now, granted, this front seven helped out a lot there. A lot. But you still saw some great plays in that secondary. You saw Cortland Guillory breaking it up all the time. Eli Bowen getting the pick. Robert Spears-Jennings getting a pick, which he should have kept in my humble opinion, but that's neither here nor there. And then you add to it Peyton Bowen with some great deflections. Reggie Powers, Day Jordan, Michael Boganowski. Like, those guys are all over the place. And this secondary next year is going to be fantastic. Fantastic. Yes, you lose Robert Spears-Jennings. I doubt you will lose Peyton Bowen. And you'll lose Gentry Williams. But otherwise, in the secondary, you're set next year. You've got guys everywhere. And then, of course, Tristan Haynes and Malik Hawkins back there as well. They're probably going to wear their red shirts this year. They're going to be great next year as well. This secondary, man. And then with all the guys that we got coming in, too. Because you got Michael Davis, who just committed earlier this week as well. 3-star corner out of Desert Edge. Which the 3-star is kind of deceiving. Dude plays like a 4 or 5. But the secondary is stepping up. They're improving each week. Cortland Guillory is getting better and better. This kid's going to be nuts as the time goes on. I'm locking it in now. Jim Thorpe Award winner before his career is over. Some final thoughts on this game. You know, front seven's going to have to be dialed in on Ahmad Hardy. You can't give up those outside zones. You can't let Ahmad Hardy get out to the edge and let him break out for big yardage. You can't do it. But don't. What worries me is how aggressive Brent loves being on defense. But if you're too aggressive and you collapse too much into the middle, Ahmad Hardy is going to be able to break out to the edge and he's going to beat you and get 10 plus yards. So play box heavy, I'd say, but don't collapse in immediately. All right? Be ready to go out there and get him in the secondary. While they've shown up in the passing game the last couple of weeks, you got to wrap up the tackles. They did much better against Alabama as opposed to how they did against Tennessee. But I want to see more. I want to see you just go up and bear hug Ahmad Hardy, bring him down to the ground like a cheetah on a gazelle or something. Now, do I think Ahmad Hardy's going to break through in a couple spots? Yes. I don't think there's a way to avoid that. Oklahoma so far has given up at least one explosive run every game. Alabama's was the smallest. That was, I think, a 28-yarder. It was a big one, but we were able to stop it eventually. But it's like a rule. Oklahoma's great front seven, great rushing defense. Has to give up at least one bigger one every game. Ahmad Hardy's going to get more than one, I bet. As for my 3 keys to OU's victory, we've talked about all this here, but we're going to do it very succinctly here, just little bullet points. 1, dominate the line of scrimmage, especially on defense, all right? Don't let him set the edge. Don't give Hardy easy gaps up the middle. Shut down those outside zones. Make sure you keep him boxed in and plug those gaps in the middle. Number 2, ball security. Let's do it again. No turnovers, okay? Win the turnover margin. You're in a good spot to win the game. Now, will we force 3 turnovers against Mizzou? I doubt it. But just don't be stupid. Don't go and give them the ball. Don't give them a free opportunity. That goes without saying. And then 3rd, offense needs to finish drives this time. They got to finish drives with touchdowns, all right? And by that, I don't mean you're set up with a short 30-yard field off of a fumble from Jaden Hardy and Sammy Omasigo, and you get a quick 10-yard pass and then a 20-yard touchdown run, all right? I'm talking a 70-plus yard drive, march down the field, and go score a touchdown. I get it that this is the 19th best rushing defense, and they're the, like, what? They're the 16th best passing defense, all right? And they're 13th in sacks and 12th in tackles for loss. I get it, but you got to find ways to finish drives. And a 2 or 3 explosive play drive, or like just a quick 76-yarder to Satania again, like he had against Ole Miss. I'm not talking that either. I want long, sustained drives. Be a little bit more aggressive, but not so much to the point where you throw out key number 2, which is no turnovers. All right, that's gonna do it there for the Mizzou preview. Then, of course, we've got our SEC Wacko picks of the week. Not tons to say on all these. It's kind of cupcake week for the SEC, the next to last week of the season. You've got Samford at Texas A&M. A&M's favored 54.5. A&M's going to win that, no question. Charlotte at Georgia. Georgia's favored by 44.5. Georgia's going to win that. Eastern Illinois at Alabama. Alabama's favored 50.5. Alabama's going to win that one. Mercer at Auburn. Auburn's favored by 27.5. Auburn's 4-6 though, but they've actually had some crazy stuff happen. Like they took Vandy down to the wire. Let's look at what else they had in the last couple of weeks. Because what? I mean, yeah, they beat Arkansas pretty handily. They took Vandy to overtime. They struggled against Kentucky. And they took Mizzou to overtime as well. They kept it together with Georgia. 20-10 was that loss. A&M was 16-10. I mean, and I know I crapped on that one because Jackson Arnold. But I mean, I'm confident Auburn's going to win that one. You never know. I'm pulling for Auburn to win the Iron Bowl. Auburn has the best shot to do the funniest thing on the planet if they're able to pull that one out. But we'll talk about that next week. We will talk about that next week. Kentucky at Vanderbilt. Vandy's favored by 8.5. I've got Vandy winning that. I mean, Kentucky has a real shot to somehow become bowl eligible, which I think would be hilarious given how much crap they've been given over the years and lately. They go to Louisville next week in rivalry week. Yeah, I don't see that happening. Well, they have a shot. Who knows? They're 5-5. Arkansas at Texas. Texas favored by 8.5. At this point, I'd believe anything, but I am going to pick Texas to win this one at home. Arkansas, I've ridden with Bobby Petrino a little bit too much this year, and he's just lost some close ones. So I don't think that they're going to go into Austin and beat Texas. Next is Coastal Carolina at South Carolina. South Carolina's favored 24.5. I've got South Carolina winning despite the polar performance that they've been putting together on offense this year. Tennessee at Florida. This one actually could be interesting. Tennessee's favored by 4.5, but the swamp is the swamp. And remember, the most dangerous teams to play, like Alabama learned last year against Oklahoma, who was 5-5 at the time. The most dangerous teams to play are the ones who have absolutely nothing more to care about and nothing more to lose. Just go out and play ball. Florida, they completely fell apart against Kentucky, but then they decided to try and hang on against Ole Miss last week. So you never know what's going to happen there. I think the Florida defense is pretty solid. So maybe they can shut down Joey Aguilar and those Tennessee receivers. I am going to pick Tennessee to win, though. I'm going to pick Tennessee. And I know I didn't do score predictions for the rest of these just because I think they're just such foregone conclusions. I'll probably have Tennessee winning 27-20 in this game. I think that Tennessee's going to get a lot of yards out of this, but I think they're going to have a similar issue with Florida like they did at Oklahoma, where they just had trouble finishing drives and they made some critical mistakes. Western Kentucky at LSU. LSU favored by 21.5. LSU's going to win that one at home. Not even going to bother predicting the score on that one. I know I didn't predict Kentucky at Vanderbilt and Arkansas at Texas. I just think that, actually, yeah, you know what? Let's go ahead and predict those. I'll take Vandy 35-24. 35-20. I'll do 35-20. Vandy by 35-20, so I'll have Vandy cover that 8.5 spread. Arkansas and Texas. I picked Texas to win. I'll say 24-17. I don't think this Texas offense is that good. They just got some lucky breaks. I think it's crazy how lucky they've been. In my humble opinion, they should be what? I think they should have lost to Kentucky, Mississippi State, and Vanderbilt. They didn't, so it doesn't matter. I honestly think Texas should be 4-7 right now. Or no, 4-6? Yeah, 4-6. But nothing I can do about that now. They're losing to A&M next week anyways. And then, of course, the only one that we all care about, Missouri at Oklahoma. Oklahoma's favored by 6.5. We've already broken it down in depth, as always, every Friday. I'm going to take Oklahoma to win. I'm going to take Oklahoma to cover 27-16. I think the defense comes up with a singular turnover, and puts us in good position to win. And I think the offense is going to use this as a kind of get-right game, or at least try to figure it out. Because, and same thing with LSU next week. Use these last 2 games of the season to really make sure that offense is humming, get it into a really good rhythm before you go out into the playoffs. Because I'm assuming Oklahoma is going to finish the season 10-2 and in the college football playoff. So, Oklahoma to win. You heard it here, 27-16. Remember, it's an 11 a.m. kick at Gaylord Family Oklahoma Memorial Stadium, Owen Field. All right, I'm going to be there despite my congested state. I'm going to be there for the boys. I'm going to show out. I saw a great reel on OU Football's Instagram account where BV is talking about fans have a real opportunity to affect the game at a tremendous level. Season's not over. It's going to take all of us. So, every person in that freaking stadium needs to be screaming their lungs out the whole dang day. None of this stuff against Texas, where people were quiet halfway through the second quarter when we were still in the lead. And none of this crap like the first half against Ole Miss, and then early third quarter and to close out the fourth quarter. I don't care how good or bad the team looks. You guys cheer. Go get it going. Sorry, I get ramped up about that. But yeah, Oklahoma versus Mizzou, 11 a.m. kick tomorrow Central Time. Show out in droves. The boys, as they put on their t-shirts last week and as everyone's been saying all week, Oklahoma's hard to kill. Fans, make them harder to kill. All right? Make them harder to kill with our screams. All right? Go get it done. Well, Sooner Nation, that's going to wrap it for this edition of the Wacko Sooners podcast, where we break down all things OU football every Friday heading into the weekend of matchups ahead. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell button so you never miss an episode. We're available on YouTube and on Spotify. Remember, go follow us on all of our socials, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter X, all at Wacko Sooners for live news updates, game highlights, and of course some memes to keep it lighthearted and fun like we like it here in Sooner Nation. Go hit those follows so you're always in the Wacko loop. Let's go get it done and get to 9-2 tomorrow. All right, guys? That being said, Boomer Sooner.